Delia Owens, the author of Where the Crawdads Sing, has said that when she visited set, she said there was something magical about seeing the characters that she'd written and the scenes that she'd written come to life. For you as an actress, did you feel a certain responsibility towards such a popular book to kind of get things right?
Definitely, definitely, because it's such a beloved book, and you know that so many people have sort of connected with that character in particular in such a kind of deep way, and they realized her in their own head. So it's definitely feels like a responsibility when you then are sort of given the task of trying to find a way of bringing them to life, for sure.
That connection must be tricky because obviously Kaya's life is so different to yours, or indeed anybody, most people living in North Carolina, even at that time. What did you find to connect with Kaya and to help bring that character to life?
Well, I think what I loved about Kaya, she's a very complex person. She is very strong and very resilient, but she's also very gentle. And I think that complexity was something that I really loved. I loved in her because, we are all very complex. We aren't all just one thing. And so I think in particular her resilience was something that I found very admirable because, I think we are very resilient as a species. And, at the time of reading it, it was during COVID. So I had an awareness, I guess, of the fact that we'd all sort of had a collective knockback in some way, or like I'd gone through something quite tough, and that we were all able to adapt and find our way of kind of getting through it. And I think for Kaya, she does have a lot of knockbacks, but she's so sort of, resilient, and she bounces back. So I think that aspect I really found admirable.
All actors, of course, have to be expert at non-verbal communication and that
Yeah,
sort of
face
interior
acting.
life and lots of stuff. And obviously for Kaya, so many of her early scenes, she doesn't have any lines at all. It's all done with the face. That is hard, but was it useful to have something like the book to draw from, to have that sort of richness of interior?
Yes, and so you're able to kind of just think the thoughts, and you have your characters in a life mapped out for you in a really beautifully written book. It's very helpful, but also what I love about filmmaking is so much of it is a collaborative process, and so you do your acting, but it's also imbued with such meaning by the choice of soundtrack underneath, or the score, or the angle that they've chosen to film that's like up here, so your character's feeling small and vulnerable, and I love that collaborative process of something. And so those non-dialogue scenes I think are some of the funnest to do, because also you're accepting and also encouraging an audience who we are all very much empathetic creatures, and so you're allowing an audience to sort of trusting them to fill in the gaps really of what the character's feeling, and I think that's really wonderful.
And with Reese Witherspoon on board as a producer, I just wondered whether there's any sense that having somebody who understands what you're doing in front of the camera because they've been an actor, is it helpful to have them also on the other side of the camera producing?
Yes, I think so. And Reese, she really is about finding characters that, she really wants to put women in the forefront, and like I said before, create characters that are complicated and complex. And yeah, it was amazing to sort of meet her, because I've grown up watching her work and been a fan for a very long time. So it was very cool to sort of meet her in person, and like you said, because she does understand what it feels like to be in front of a camera, which is, a scary thing sometimes. You're vulnerable. It's very exposing. It means that when you have someone behind the camera who's, coming from a place of understanding and kindness, it really helps to give you confidence.
This is another role where you're not using your natural accent. You continue to expand your CV of accents. But obviously with the North Carolina accent, that's very, very specific. And did you have to work very, very specifically on getting that right?
Yes, I worked with an accent coach, and it was really important to get that right, because, you want that to sound authentic, and we wanted to kind of create a particular quality to Kaya's voice. And I find accents to be so revealing about a character. I think we can't help, as perhaps with our sort of British accent, to sound, automatically a little sort of sarcastic or a wee bit self-conscious. And it really is funny that it really does affect your physicality too.
Yeah.
And I find with like when I was doing the North Carolina, there's a real like lyricism and to the quality of that sound and gentleness that really actually helped me to sort of access a part of Kaya that, it just really helped me to get there.
Obviously, Kaya has a very deep connection to the natural world around her, as does Delia, the author. Obviously, this is set in a very different period to our own, but we're living through a climate crisis right now. What do you think Kaya would make of the world that we live in right now?
Yes, well, I think that's something that I also found very compelling about the story, is that it really is a love letter to nature. And I think during I read it during COVID, and we had our sort of one daily walks, and I became very appreciative of the wee patch of green near me. And I think Kaya would be really she would be terribly upset, I think, and anxious about our sort of sort of disservice to nature. And I think this story really does celebrate it. And when you see that environment on, and Polly, our DOP's incredible sort of cinematography, you can't help but ignore how beautiful it is and how important it is to preserve it.
Fantastic note on which to end, Stacey. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you again.